We'll share the link to our pages in the chat session soon, so you can check our collaborating partners. Our Gynehobs is like the name infers, Gynehobs is an hub for everything that has to do with women's gynecology. I mean, I learn on a daily basis on their page, learning so much about women's gynecology. So on that note, we'll be moving to the next on the agenda. Yes, while we are here, the theme for this year's International Women's Day. Can anyone tell me what's the theme for this year's International Women's Day?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Please introduce yourself and tell us what's the theme for this year's International Women's Day.
Latifa Adelani Omolade is my name, and I'm speaking from Lagos. So the theme for this year party girl session is Inclusion Matters, Advancing Menstrual Health for Women and Girls Living with Disabilities. I hope I'm correct, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You are absolutely correct. Thank you very much. That's the theme for our webinar today, Inclusion Matters. Inclusion Matters. So can someone tell me the theme for International Women's Day this year? International Women's Day. I mean, we all celebrated and wished each other Happy International Women's Day yesterday. Can anyone tell me what is the theme for this year? Please, anyone can just unmute yourself, or you can use the chat box if you are more comfortable with the chat box.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Aderohunmu.
Thank
you. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Inspire Inclusion.
Inspire Inclusion. Thank you very much. This year's International Women's Day, thank you, Adetayo, is Inspire Inclusion. I want to do a short quiz. Can anyone remind me the theme for last year's International Women's Day? Does anyone remember? Oh. All right.
Embrace equity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Embrace equity. Last year, we embraced equity. And this year, we are inspiring inclusion. We are inspiring inclusion. If you've been following the trend of the International Women's Day, it is not just, in fact, if there's any day that is not just a random day, that is a very, very intentional day, then it's going to be the International Women's Day. Like every theme every year is very intentional and a build up on what we had the previous year. Last year, we embraced equity, and this year we are inspiring inclusion. This year we are inspiring inclusion. I think 2 or 3 years ago, we are breaking barriers. We break down barriers, and I mean, it's been like that for a couple of years now. And so if you follow it, you see, it is not just, oh, they started again, they're celebrating women again. It's actually a fundamental part of our understanding of our being and who we are as a gender, as a people. So this year, we are inspiring inclusion at all levels. We're inspiring inclusion, and this is why we are talking about Inclusion Matters, because, I mean, women empowerment is incomplete without inclusive efforts. Women empowerment is incomplete without everyone being carried along, everyone being given their due space, their due recognition, without any barriers. It is incomplete if we consider some people not good enough, not strong enough, too strong, too weak, too good, or whatever, stereotypes which will label people and take them off the space and shrink the space more. This year, we are widening the space. We are widening and opening up the space to inspire inclusion, to include more and more people. There's this saying when we're in primary school, they say, the more, the merrier. The more, the merrier. And for this particular edition, Aderohunmu Initiative is focusing on inclusion in the disability space on the one end, and inclusion in the NGO space in Nigeria. And which is the reason we are really grateful for our collaborating partners and our organization, the guest organizations who are here today, who honored our invitation, because collaborative and inclusive efforts we lead more to the destination. When we go together, we go faster. When we go together, we go faster. If we have Helpmate Foundation working on learning poverty, Paddy Queen working on period poverty. We have Noble Arts Foundation working on children. If we begin to collaborate and see one another as working towards the same goal and create an inclusive space in the NGO space, we realize that we'll go faster, we'll reach our goals faster, and we'll make more impact. Likewise, in the women's space, I must admit, we've been on this for quite a number of years now. I mean, it's almost 3 years we've been on this. And just recently, prior to even knowing what the theme for this year is, we realized that we have not really done so much for women and girls living with disabilities. We have not really engaged that community. And so we thought this is a good way to include them. And coincidentally, the International Women's Day theme was Inspire Inclusion, and it was just a perfect time to speak about them, to learn from them as women and girls living with disabilities. What is their own experience? What is their own experience as, sorry, please. So what is their own experience? I know my own experience as a young lady. I mean, growing up, as a young lady, people ask me so many times, what's my drive? What's my passion for Paddy Queen? And I tell them, growing up as a girl, I had a menstrual health challenge. I had dysfunctional uterine bleeding. And even though we would attend so many events and they would teach us about menstruation, nobody was speaking to me. Nobody was speaking to me. I wasn't seeing myself in the picture of what we were talking about. As a young girl, I mean, a young 14, 13-year-old girl, I would use as much as 6, 7 pads in a day. And so when they tell us, change your pad in 8 hours, they are not talking to me. I can't change my pad in 8 hours. So I wasn't seeing myself exactly in the conversations. And so growing up, it was really much of a struggle. And then we are made to understand that a girl getting stained means the girl is not coordinated, the girl is not neat, the girl is not, and all of those, all of those stereotypes. So due to my own challenge, I mean, dysfunctional uterine bleeding comes with very heavy bleeding, very, very heavy bleeding. And so no matter how much I try to be coordinated, if I'm going to sit in class for 3 to 4 hours, there's a very high likelihood that I'm going to get stained. And so you can imagine the stigma, the shame. My classmates would laugh, and it was like I was the dirty girl, the uncoordinated girl, the girl who is not taking care of her periods, where, my teachers would call me and, instead of asking and encouraging me, okay, what is happening? Why are you getting stained? They would bash me. Are you a small girl? Can't you take care of yourself? And all of that. So as a girl growing up, I wasn't like every other girl. My menstruation wasn't like every other girl. And I wasn't seeing myself in all of the narratives around me. I wasn't seeing myself in all of what they were saying. It was like I was the odd one out. They made me feel like the odd one out, like I was responsible for whatever it is that was happening to me, like I was untidy. And being a teacher over the years, I've taught both in secondary and higher institution. I realized that more often than not, there are so many girls around me. I've had to support female students having PCOS. I've had to support female students experiencing even DUB that I experienced. And you realize the support is not there. When somebody has ulcer, for instance, they can always mention anywhere that, oh, I have ulcer, my stomach is paining me. And then you have PCOS, you're having challenges, you can't mention it because you'll be stigmatized. The worst part of it is somebody out of the blues questioning your fertility. I mean, someone is in pain, and then the next question coming up is, are you sure you have a child? I mean, I'm in pain. Can you just help me now? So I've had to support so many female students, and that was what inspired Paddy Queen Initiative. Like, we need menstrual health education in this part of the world. We need menstrual health support in this part of the world. We need to do better. And so today, as somebody who has walked the journey of being different, I realized that we need to also hear from women and girls living with disabilities. We need to hear from women and girls living with disabilities. So on this note, I'll be handing over the invisible mic to Oh, I think we lost her now. Oh my God. Oh God. Just a sec, please. She was here. So I'll just go on and see if she could reconnect. So we'll hand over to Fatimah Aderohunmu. I'm just going to introduce her quickly while we are waiting for her. Fatimah Aderohunmu is an author. I mean, she took a bold step, taking a story, because in this part of the world, we are really scared of sharing our story. We are scared of sharing our story because you mention your challenge and then there's somebody somewhere waiting to use it against you. But this courageous woman, this courageous lady, shared her story in a book. She authored a book about a challenge. She's a muscular dystrophy warrior. I mean, I'll call it a warrior because in this part of the world, once you have a disability, it's like the end of the world for you. You're not meant to fit in, you're not meant to be part of the world. But this is a girl who is changing the narrative at all levels. This is a lady changing the narrative at all levels. She is a disability advocate and an emerging product manager. Can you imagine? PM, an emerging product manager. She has a strong passion for advocating for people with disabilities, using the media with her voice. I can testify to that. You can check Fatimah Aderohunmu on Facebook, on Instagram, and you will see that she is actually using the media to change the narrative. She uses her story to inspire women and girls living with disabilities that they could be more, they could do more, and they could achieve more. Fatimah is currently studying mass communication at the National Open University of Nigeria, and she's applying all that she's learning, wow, to support advocacy for people with disabilities. So Fatimah will be joining us in a couple of minutes. She just sent a message. She's trying to connect. Sorry. She's trying to connect now. So in the meantime, can anyone share with us maybe an experience in the past as a young girl that you had that's relating to your menstruation that you think we could have done better? I just shared mine, that you think we could have done better as a people. Perhaps maybe an history of menstrual health challenge, a history of menstrual health challenge, or maybe just a random experience in school that you had as a girl and you think as a people, as adults now, we should be able to do better for the girls coming behind us. Please feel free to unmute yourself, please. Does anyone has any experience, personal experience to share with us?
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can.
All right, so thank you so much. And I just wanted to say that you're doing an amazing job, for putting this together, because I hope and I wish that when I was younger, I had access to, all of this information you are putting out there now. I happen to be, okay, so I'm not like the regular average teenager, maybe at 12 or 13, that would start their menstruation. I started quite late. And because a lot of my friends have started menstruating, they started having secondary sexual reproductive organ and all of that. At some point, they started giving me names in school. They'll say, something like that. And it was indeed somehow I was bullied because of that. And even when I started menstruation, I didn't know so much about it. I can remember my first menstruation experience like the back of my hand. I was at home and and I just saw something. Oh, it's blood. And then my mommy said, oh, okay, you need to use a pad and all of that. And, I just wanted to mention the area where parents do not really do so much about educating their children um, about menstruation. And because of that, we are pushed to learn from the wrong person, from young people like us who do not also understand this is how it works and everything. And I can relate on so many levels when you said you usually would get stained and everybody would say, oh, this is this girl and everything like that. And it is because even our society generally, once you are stained, they make a big deal of it and say, hey, sorry. Everybody comes, bring a shirt, tell you to put it on. And then you start feeling like victim, like, see, please, you pass blood, I beg. So it's I think you're doing an amazing job for really putting it out there. And I'm saying that we might need to also do, like I'm suggesting, that maybe a kind of awareness for parents to understand that they really need to have this conversation. It's not a thing to be ashamed about. They can have this conversation, empower their girl child to understand, oh, this is what is going on in my body, this is what is going on. And when maybe I get stained or something, it's not something to be ashamed about. It is not something, it doesn't make me a dirty girl. It doesn't mean that I do not have a grasp of. Even as an adult now, that happened to me. I remember I was going somewhere very far away. And because I had been sitting in the bus for a very, very long time, and my first day of menstruation is really always very chaotic somehow. And by the time I got to where I was going to, blood was literally dripping from my body. Blood was dripping. And and I was just imagining, of course, at the time I was already an adult and I didn't really feel anything. I just cleaned up and all of that. I was imagining if that was a younger version of me, how would she have took care of that situation and all of that. So I just wanted to say maybe some awareness for parents, because parents need to start doing better, as to encourage their children and all that. No matter what we say as NGOs, talk to these girls and everything, sometimes they also need that voice of their parents. They see them more often than they would see us. The voice of their parents to say, okay, you're doing absolutely well, nothing is wrong with you, this is what happens, what is happening in your body and all that. So pretty much that is my own personal experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. That is Rashida Okpere from the Helpmate Foundation. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. So now we move the mic, the invisible mic, to Fatimah Aderohunmu, who would also be sharing her experience with us, what she thinks we could have done better as a girl living with disabilities, growing up and navigating menstruation. What are the things, what are your experiences that you think we should have done better as a people, that we should have improved on as a people? And you think girls coming behind us, women and girls living with disabilities, what they deserve better, what we should do better for them in this generation. So Fatimah, can we have you now?
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, good morning. Good morning.
I don't know even what I am. Okay.
Oh, yes, we can.
Okay. Can you see me better now?
Yes, we can see you clearly.
Okay. Let me start from, where should I start from? Okay. Good morning. Do you want to start first, or is there anything you want to say first?
Sorry, I didn't quite get that, please.
Is there anything you want to say first, or maybe I should go ahead?
Yes, you can go ahead. As a girl, when you began menstruation, I suppose you were already, you're managing your child, so like, what were the things you experienced I knew that growing up there were some events teaching us, like our generation kind of had it better than other people. Like I said, for mine, I didn't usually see myself in those events, even though they were teaching us about menstruation. I wasn't exactly seeing myself in those things they were talking about. How did it feel growing up and learning about menstruation for you?
Okay, thank you very much. For me, puberty started for me at the age of 9, and I started my period at the age of 12. So, during those periods, I already started, living with my disability, and managing periods when you have a physical or intellectual disability can be more challenging than usual. So there are some people that thought, maybe disabled people don't have periods. Of course, it happens, we do. While some may have easy menstrual cycle, while others may not, facing, as a woman, it's necessary to face some hormonal challenges sometimes. But for me, while growing up, it wasn't, my period was normal while growing up with it. So at first, should I talk about how I knew about menstruation, or it's not necessary for me to talk about it?
No,
Or
feel free. Talk about it, please.
so then while my condition started, I don't used to go out of 28 like before. So I spent most of my times at home. I knew about menstruation through a cousin that was living with us then. So and when my menstruation showed up, thankfully I was at home. So I told my mom about it, and she helped me with a pad then. So after some years, I started experiencing this hormonal imbalance, and menstruation going on and off, not showing up every month like before. So that was when I started, dealing with hormonal imbalance. And one of the challenges I faced as someone with disability using a pad is that most of the parts were not comfortable. Then I was still working, while working, the wings of the pad were like, removing, my how should I say it? My thighs were like, you know, and they would flat the this part, so it wasn't comfortable. Then I attended one program like that for women with disability, something like this for menstruation. So they talked about this tampon. Is it right? Tampon. So then I knew about it. They said it's another alternative, for women with disability to be comfortable. So I read about it online, so I was like, this thing is not going to be easy. And it is true. Then I used to fall down often. Just imagine, maybe I fall down and it's affected, or maybe I fall down and it's pushed in. So I started having serious thoughts like that this isn't something I should use. So they said, I even thought it's something like maybe maybe if I want to urinate, I don't have to remove. They said I have to. I don't know what's the stress. It's going to be, a big deal for me. Even the pad is still better, drop down your pants and all sorts of things like that. And another issue for women with disability going through menstrual cycle is that, going out with during your menstruation is not easy at all. Most of these our society are not accessibility friendly at all. So, maybe if you want to change your pad or pint, maybe your hands, those on wheelchair, maybe their hands can't go to where the toilet roll is and all sorts of things like that. For me now, during my menstruation, I don't used to go out. Even if it is something important, I rather stay at home because coming down from the car, sitting on the wheelchair, even if I don't sit very well, now I want to sit very well. Maybe the pad might change, or maybe where I am, I need to stand up and someone lifts me up, and it's all mess. Maybe all my clothes are stained, all sorts of things like that. They are uncomfortable. Even at home to do it, it's not easy at all. If not for the help of my mom and my siblings, so it's not. So it's better like staying at home. But it's not easy. Not to talk of going out with it. So all sorts of things, and facing challenges like PCOS, because when it all started, my hormonal imbalance, all sorts of things, I thought maybe it's a normal thing because I had no idea about what hormonal imbalance. Maybe it's because I don't used to mix up with people, make friends, go out and learn more about this thing. So it was when I started about this menstruation going on and off, as hormonal imbalance. Then I reached out to a doctor. Then we started doing some necessary tests. So that was when I knew that this thing is muscular. Sorry, this thing is PCOS. So then when I was told it was PCOS, I was like, this thing so I realized it was something that gave me this unnecessary weight. So, and sometimes it might go off for like 3 months, show up unexpectedly in places you don't even expect, and I wasn't prepared for. And my period, I don't used to have this menstrual cramps or anything. No, I don't feel it at all.
Okay.
So I did being I used to feel it, or I can like, okay, I think it's coming, let me get it part, let me get it somewhere. So things like that. So, and some people, I read about some people that for their children, let me say for their children, maybe girls with disability, they want to, I say they want to, they used to, find in any way to stop their menstruation from coming. And it is true. Honestly,
Sorry,
it's not
can you quite come again? Did you say they
yeah.
try to stop their menstruation?
Exactly. Maybe those with intellectual disability, it's not really easy for them. They have no idea. They can't even control most parts of their body. They can't even, they don't even know what is wrong with them or what's going on with this menstruation of a teen. So, and for me, sometimes I used to feel like I don't even want it to come anymore again until I learned that menstruation is something we need to do, because there are some things menstruation flush out of our body, so it's very necessary so that it won't stock up in our body and give us some health issues in the future. So that was when I started doing some research about PCOS. So I was like, maybe it was because I said I don't want to do period again. Maybe that's why PCOS came. The last time I did my period was last year February, so and it showed up suddenly this year February again. So I was like, is this something? I just feel
Fatima, sorry to interrupt you. I mean, I like that angle of the extent that women and girls living with disabilities would go to stop their period from coming.
yes.
I want you to like shed more light on looking at the things now that you have experienced now and you are still experiencing. I mean, I can't imagine having to stay home because of my period. Because I mean, once in a while, because I have DUB growing up, I really missed out on a lot of things because there are certain days I can't just go out. I had to just stay home because I had to change like every other hour. And I mean, we don't have toilet facilities. As an undergraduate, it was a lot of struggle for me. I mean, there were days I missed tests. There were days I had to stand to write my exams because if I dare sit, I'm going to make a mess of the exam hall. And so I had to just seek to stand, that my health condition cannot allow me to sit for now. So, I mean, it's something that I can resonate with how much, and I mean, nobody should be held back for menstruation. That is what we are advocating for when it comes to menstrual health, that nobody should have to go through any menstrual related barrier, any menstrual related challenges or restrictions. Because I mean, if you menstruate for like 5 days a week, it would mean that 5 days a month, right? It would mean that for 5 days, you're going to have to put your life on hold because of menstruation. This is what we don't want for anybody. Not anybody should have to go through that. So Fatima, as a woman living with disability and an advocate for disabilities' rights, what are the things you think women living with disabilities, girls living with disabilities need to enhance and optimize their living such that the restrictions that menstruation is placing on them would be reduced greatly to the barest minimum? What are the things you think we need to put in place that you think as a menstruating woman you would need to have around you in public spaces, in our schools, in our markets, in our institutions? What are the things you would suggest? And even in terms of period supplies. I mean, you mentioned something that really, really like, I mean, it is one thing, the women and girls we relate with, the challenge they have is they cannot afford it. But now you are even mentioning a very, very unique perspective. It is the fact that these things are not even serving you in the right way. It is bringing more discomfort than it is actually serving. What are your suggestions for us? What do you think we should do better as a people?
Okay. Thank you very much. For me, changing a pad takes a lot of time. By the time I remove the soil pad, wrap it up, dispose, and all sorts of things like that, it's not easy. That's why most of the time I stay at home, and because I'm afraid of I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how it is going to be like. I don't know how it's going to be like for me. So I don't know how the toilet is going to. Even sometimes, maybe not during menstruation. Maybe I go out, on the normal days. Like sometimes I don't even feel like going to their toilet because I'm not even sure. The entrance alone is not even accessible for me. So all toilets, maybe I can't say all toilets. All female toilets should have a sanitary bins. It's very important. A woman will be feel comfortable, like you can go there, dispose them yourself. And there are some women that can they still have access to use their hands even if they can't walk. So those that can roll themselves. So, and there are some places, those toilets, those sinks, I don't know if you know them, those things whereby maybe you want to wash your hand and all sorts of things like that. I don't know if anyone can hear me.
Yes, yeah, very well. I think, I
So,
mean, please,
those
can you just take a pause? If you can hear Fatima, please, can you just say I in the chat box so she can be sure that we can hear her, please? Thank you.
Okay. So by the time a woman with a woman using a wheelchair, will herself to change her pad, all those things. And majority of these toilets are not disability friendly. So there are some that can still make use of their hands, change their pad themselves, dispose it in the sanitary bin and dress up. So by the time they even do that, there are higher chance of messing herself up. So every time we need assistance, we need support. So, and another issue is that these our sinks, these toilet sinks, building them in high places, they don't make sense at all. So every disability with how should I even say, every woman with disability has different challenges. Some they can make use of their hands, they can do things, but still they need to stand up. A woman using a wheelchair, sitting down, she has to sit on it, so she needs to stand. What if she can't stand? So those toilets needs to be accessible enough. There is this guide they are building to some toilets now. Every toilet, every female toilet has this thing. They are very important. So another thing is there is something important I want to say and I forgot now. Sorry about that.
No, you can just go on. You probably will remember.
Okay. So there are very important things some people don't talk about is that they need to do more research. For, I don't know, just like what you are doing now, you are making things easier for women with disability. There are a lot of things we need to do more research on how to help some women with disability. So there are some, maybe it might be the tampon that is going to be I don't know, that going to be accessible for them, or maybe convenient for them. There are some, maybe it is the pad, or I even had some use Pampers. So I'm still surprised. Some said Pampers endures a lot of blood, from morning to night. So I just feel like something like that is going to give them, so I don't know, it's going to give them some things, or I can't say sure, maybe it's convenience for them. So there are a lot of things they need to help women with disability with. So most especially their mothers. So they need to, educate and enlighten them. So it's not as if they have not been through menstrual cycle or anything. But for women with disability, it is different. So it's a special case. It's like some people used to say a special needs for people with disability. It's a different case, unlike for other women. You just go into the toilet, change your pad, dispose it, and walk out. Even maybe your clothes is stained, you wash it yourself. And also, so there are some women that can't do that for themselves. They need help, most especially, and it is their mother. So not everyone has access to caregiver, to personal caregiver. Some, it is their mother. So their mother needs to be, enlightened and aware of how, they need to be careful as well again. They need to treat them gently. Maybe as an adult during menstruation, maybe she's not comfortable with how she's doing, the mother feel like, well, this is how I'm going to do it, for accept it like that. They have to understand how she's feeling. Doing someone doing it for you, it can't be like you doing it for yourself. So, and it's not only their mothers again, some friends, we need, most especially the society. So some feel like sorry for saying this. So there was a time like that, someone asked me, okay, because of your condition, you still feel the urge, the urge to have sex. I was like, what do you think? Do you think my condition, that? So I was very surprised. So some people have this mentality to, like, women with disability don't menstruate. They don't, maybe they don't. They are not normal woman again. So it doesn't make sense. We need to change a lot of people's thinking. Their mentality needs to change. So, what
Thank
else
you
did I
very
say?
much, Fatima. Thank you very much. I mean, it's been so many layers of there is the angle of the culture of shame and lack of education, because I believe stigmatization comes largely from lack of education. You don't know about it. Other than learning, you choose to sideline the people who are experiencing it. And I mean, this is a call for us all to learn that, I mean, we need to manage our biases so that we don't rub it off on other people. Okay, what you don't know about, the best way to go about it is to learn about it. I mean, Google has made a lot of things easy now. And like you mentioned, because for us now, as an organization that is focused on, we don't just advocate, we also focus on creating sustainable solutions. And we are serving all women and girls. So you mentioning now that the kind of pads we have do not serve is a call for action for us too, for every one of us to think about something. I mean, when you mentioned the pamper stuff, I can relate with it, because at some point not until we began producing our own pads and pad queen, I stopped, as in from the age of 18 or thereabout, I stopped using the regular single-use pads, the always and all of that, because it wasn't even serving me at all. And if I have to be in class, if I have to be at work for hours and I don't want to keep running in and out of the toilet, I had to move to more fixed pad. Like Murphy's part could still give me assurance of 3 to 4 hours of focusing in class and focusing at work without running to toilet. So I've seen a number of conversations online, women having fibroids, women having, even women who have no health challenge at all. They're talking about how these pads are not serving them and that it is giving a tough time. So I can imagine that women and girls living with disabilities will have the same peculiar experience too, because one, menstruation is not the same for all of us. And like you said, disabilities does not come in the same way for everyone. I mean, some people they are able in some parts and disabled in the other parts. Thank you very much for sharing your journey with us, Fatima. I mean, on the final note, is there anything you would like to add on the final note before we move on to our very powerful Akhere Akran, who is here to share with us insights on how she's been managing? I mean, she runs 2 inclusive centers. That's such a level of power, because I mean, managing a school, a regular school, comes with a lot of work and energy and strategy and all. And she's managing 2 inclusive centers. So just before we have Akhere Akran, Fatima, will you give us your final words so we can move to the next speaker? Thank you.
Okay. I think the only thing I have to say is that education is very important, and education is very important because menstruation is a biological process. So, like, a lot of people, their mind are attached to maybe taboos, misconceptions, and stigma about menstruation. So, it's particularly worse for women with disability, where some negative assumptions. There are some educational programs on sexual reproductive health issues concerning menstrual health. So, some are left out due to, because what does she need for, what does she need this thing for? Like, is she even a woman? Now, a woman with disability, is she even doing menstruation? All sorts of things like that. So a lot of people mentality needs to change concerning how they are treating people with disability, most especially women with disability. For instance, now, there was a time I was going through some things online, and I saw about a woman, a blind woman. So she said, sometimes in class, maybe when they are talking about menstruation or how to use pad, all sorts of things like that. Most times, she's blind, she can't see, she can't even see how they are demonstrating it. So they need to work on things like that. They need to work on how they can improve for people that are blind as well. So for us now, maybe for us that are wheelchair user, we are using wheelchair, but we can still see how they are demonstrating it. So she can only hear, but she can't see. So that one is another another special case on its own. So they need something to I don't know, maybe there are people that are doing things like that. They can make it easy. Maybe another person with disability, or this there are some that are very professional in terms of things like this. Maybe someone that is blind, or maybe she's very professional in the area of educating people with disability. So she has to handle people with should I say, people that are blind, educate them on this is what they are saying. This is how, there has to be a way for them to learn as well. Thank you very much. So
Thank
that's
you. Thank you very much, Fatimah. Thank you for being the mouthpiece for women and girls living with disabilities, because it is one thing to experience it and just keep all of those experiences to yourself. It is another thing to be the voice of change, to be the voice of power, to be the voice that brings about transformative changes to the lives of women and girls living with disabilities. Thank you very much for all you do, and thank you very much for this very insightful and wonderful experience. Thank you. So just before we bring in Akhere Akran, you see, I'm really excited about listening to Akhere Akran. I won't give you any spoiler alert. I won't give you, because I once experienced her talking, even though she had no idea I was in the audience, and I was wowed. So I don't want to give you any spoiler alert. But just before we call her on board, please, can I ask you for something, please? Can you please just put on your camera for a second, please? Can everyone just put on your camera for a second, please? Just for us to take a shot of the attendance.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Can everyone just put on their camera for a sec, please? Please, can you just turn your camera on for just a sec, and we'll be back to, thank you very much. Please, we are expecting Aisha Bakatula. Okay, please, just for a second, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please just put on your camera for a second. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Please, we've not taken the shot, so we are still waiting, please. We still have some people, camera which is not on, please. Thank you. Thank you. Just a few more people and we'll take it, please, please, please. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry for invading your private space. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So, yeah, thank you very much. So, we will hand over the invisible mic to Akhere Akran. And just before that, if we have any organization that has joined recently, again, please feel free to introduce yourself, your name and your organization in the chat box so that we can give you your due recognition. And I want to especially recognize my boss is here with us. My boss is here on the program with us, Dr. Ademola Lawal. Thank you for always supporting me, and thank you for always being there for Paddy Queen. He would always show up for us every time. Thank you so much, sir. So on that note, I would introduce the powerful Akhere Akran. Akhere is a renowned diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategist. You see, it is one thing to build a career. It is one thing to pick a very, somewhere people are not even noticing at all. People do not even care about, perhaps because it's not the big tech store, and you pick it and you do it with so much passion. I'm telling you, Akhere is the embodiment of passion, in all honesty. Akhere has made remarkable strides in the field of educational administration and planning and public health. She is the founder of Agatha Obiageli Memorial Foundation, a not-for-profit, non-governmental organization that targets the SDGs 1, 3, 4, 6, and 10. Wow. Our foundation emphasizes empathy and carries out activities that aim to alleviate the sufferings of the less privileged. Akhere runs 2 diversity centers, that's the St. Agatha's Inclusive Learning Center, which is a satellite town in Lagos, and the Prosperous Children Education Project, a destitute home, which is at Ebute Metta. Both foundations have served over 3,000 children. I mean, over 3,000 children. You know, we don't really take data seriously in this part of the world. And when we hear certain numbers, it feel like, and maybe because of the currency, numbers are beginning to look small. 3,000 children is not a joke. It's not 3,000 naira. Counting head, 3,000 heads is a lot of people to work with. I can tell you from experience. She is currently the disability consultant for the Youth Animation and Post-Production Initiative at the Delioc Art Academy. And she's also a consultant with the University of Buckingham International Diploma in Education. I can read on and on Akhere's citation. She's the Deputy Divisional Coordinator for the Nigerian Red Cross Society. She's on the board of several non-profit organizations, and she is blessed with 2 adorable children. She is Akhere Akran. Thank you very much for joining us. Please, a round of applause for her. I'm a standing ovation for her. Thank you very much, Akhere. I'm passing the invisible mic to you to share your insights and expertise with us on inclusion and diversity in the menstrual health space. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adetayo. Thank you so much. Like, I'm literally grinning from ears to ears, listening to you. And then, of course, Fatimah. Fatimah, my darling, thank you so much. I think it was just literally orchestrated. It's a man proposes and God disposes. So for Fatimah to speak before me was from divine, even if it was rearranged, in a certain way. So Fatimah, thank you so much. I think I really enjoyed your presentation. And like I always do every time we have this conversation, I like how you're not able to mince words and state exactly what it is. I mean, so that people can literally understand. I mean, who wears the shoes knows where it pinches. However, you're able to literally explain it so that we can somehow empathize and feel what you feel, even if it's not entirely to an extent. Thank you so much. And again, kudos on your book. We keep reading it over and over again because we can never get enough information. So today I'm going to be talking about an inclusive approach to menstrual health. First of all, when people hear the word menstruation, it's a taboo. Not everybody can talk about it. If this was a physical class, no, because we still have some sort of interaction, I want, if you're comfortable saying the word menstruation anywhere you are, please use the icon and just hands up and then hands down. I want to see how many people are able to talk about it. If you're comfortably just say menstruation, no, just say I'm on my period, or I'm having cramps, or you're not irritated, because some things in our climes these days, we have made the abnormal normal and the normal abnormal. We have literally twisted things because of our human perception. Some of us think we can begin to rule out policies and principles without considering or acknowledging diversity. So when you talk about menstruation, look at you, small now. Why are you talking about this kind of thing outside? Small, don't shout. Like, it's supposed to be something, you should be ashamed of or be stigmatized, excluded, isolated, alienated because you are menstruating. And that's what has made it abnormal. So I'll be talking about, the inclusive approach to menstrual health. It's very important for us to acknowledge that women's health, is an extremely broad domain. This is because of the complexity of our internal structures. Fatimah mentioned that it's a biological process. Our metabolism, whether we like it or not, this same body, will menstruate. First of all, you start by experiencing discomfort. The next thing, your breast is growing. There is pain here. There is pain here. All of a sudden, you're beginning to have one tummy ache. And then, boom, one day you spot red spots. And then people start, those ones who do not even understand how and why, get carried away or are scared. It is important to know that because doesn't make another person excused for not knowing. That this is where diversity, equity, and inclusion comes in menstrual health. You have to not place an umbrella or a cap, right, on expectations. It's not enough to say that because how come you don't know that when you're about to start your period, you start feeling cramps. Fatima told us here, because of her condition, she doesn't feel cramps. How do you make excuses for people living with disabilities? And we're focusing on disabilities today. It doesn't rule out that inclusion does not only focus on disability. In the past, UN acknowledged everything inclusion directed to disability. Now, anyone who has somehow been excluded from the norm, right, must be acknowledged as someone who has been disenfranchised, and there must be policies and principles to ensure that these people are included into our norm. I didn't say integrated. I said included. That means they have a sense of belonging in the space. So we're going to also acknowledge culture. Fatima is so blessed that she's living with a disability, and then she also has a diverse, her culture, religion, and everything in between is enough for her to be excluded from the talk about menstrual health. But she has done so well to continue to raise awareness about it. So as I was saying, one important, there's so much complexities and nuances associated with menstrual health when it comes to girls living with disabilities or females living with disabilities. First of all, they're not expected to menstruate. Why? Because they say they are not normal. And then I ask again, who is normal? I always like to ask, who is normal? Though? If you're normal, raise up your hand on this call. And then you have to explain to me why I am the abnormal one. Okay? So I usually say, who is normal? Normal is boring. There is no one size fits all or one cap fits all for all of us. So one important but often overlooked aspect of women's health is menstrual health. Like I said, my opening speech, I'm like, it is a taboo. Menstrual health refers to the normal physiological process that women go through during their reproductive years, from, beginning until they get to menopause. However, oftentimes more than not, there's so much stigma associated with it. But guess what? When the MDGs were being converted to SDGs, something was left out. I don't think some of us have paid attention to it. Inclusion was left out in everything that, we're transitioning from this number of goals to this number of goals to make it broader, which is why the SDGs are focused on leave no one behind. In every goal, from goal 1 to goal 17, that wraps it all up, where it says inclusion, collaboration of all the goals put together, inclusion, which is why in health, it has been expanded. In education, it has been expanded. In finances, it has been expanded. In environmental health, it has been expanded. In water and life, it has been expanded. People are talking about inclusion because, there's something that, we're doing this, but it didn't talk about ensuring that everyone is carried along in diverse sectors. So the Sustainable Development Goals recognizes the critical importance of menstrual health, specifically in Goal 3, that promotes the well-being for all at all ages. Again, if we look at Goal 5, right, in the same Sustainable Development Goals, it seeks to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And this includes menstrual health because it is positioned as an important issue that intersects between health, sanitation, education, gender equality, and economic development. Why is that? If you're talking about menstruation, whichever way you want to use or whichever procedure you want to use during your period, if you're using a reusable pad, you're using a regular pad, you're using a diaper, whatever it is that you are using, right? Oh, thank you for showing my slides. Some of us as an academic, we're just, so you ensure that for education, like you can see on my shirt, if you can see my shirt, I said, if we know better, we will do better. So for education, you're talking about how are people informed? How are people informed on menstrual health? Is it talked about? Acknowledging diversity again and their culture. Do they talk about it? I think you should be going to slide 2 now. Yep, good. So Do they talk, slide 3, no, back, slide 3, yes. So do people talk about menstrual health? Are people taught about it in school? Our curriculum has been tweaked over and over and over again. And some of the most important things are excluded under the umbrella of innovation and removing, and adding some things that might not be needed. We're not going to talk about that today. But what I'm talking about is in education, menstrual health is important. Menstrual health intersects with health because you have personal hygiene. Menstrual health also intersects with sanitation because you would be discarding your sanitary pads. Menstrual health also intersects with gender equality and economic development. We have this information in the United Nations document of 2015. So if we're talking about inclusive menstrual health, this focuses on ensuring that those services and supplies are available for all women, irrespective of their social, cultural, or economic status. A woman with a disability, Muslim, Christian, none of the above, right, deserves equitable access to menstrual health and menstrual information. It is very important that it shows how this procedure or this process is inclusive for all women. The challenges, right, that women face with reference to menstrual health are multifaceted. They are diverse. Yes, there are challenges. Fatimah highlighted some of them. The umbrella challenge is the stigma and taboo. I mean, because a female is living with a disability, she's not expected to menstruate. I kid you not. Oftentimes when I have had to take some teachers who we have trained in special needs education for field trips, or when we want to talk about diversity, or sometimes even in the school, you hear people saying that, do they menstruate? Excuse you? Whatever disability they have not affected their metabolism, except they have been diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, or in recent times, we've had people go into menopause at very early ages. And this is as a result of some of our behavioral lifestyles. Other than that, persons or females living with disabilities have the rights to menstruate. So the taboos, the myths, they are worldwide. It's not limited to only Nigeria. And I'm hoping that it gets better. Now, some of these prejudices lead to mental health issues. So for somebody living with a disability, already struggling with how to be comfortable when she's on her menstruation, which she cannot stop. Fatimah mentioned about that. Yes, I'm also going to talk about it. And then all of a sudden, you are stigmatizing. You are raising up dust because you think, why is she not excused from menstruating, or why should she menstruate? In India, 1 in 5 girls drop out of school after they start menstruating, and that's for a fact. This is a problem that extends way beyond health. It is just acceptance, because people do not believe, or people do not want to accept that it must happen. In addition, there's access. The access to sanitary products are off. We have had costs to always distribute, sanitary pads as well as reusable pads, because we acknowledge that some persons might not be able to buy pads, and then some cultures, traditions do not even permit them to use regular pads. They must use the ones that can be washed. And guess what? Sometimes even the ones that are washed, for girls in underserved communities living with disabilities who do not even have any access to funding, might be able to use. So again, the provision, can you please move to the next slide? The provision of these all too important. Sometimes I ask, why is it that sanitary pads are not distributed for free? Oftentimes, how much is a pad now? We're going to get to that. So this all too important issue calls for, I think, a rethink in our policies. Some people do not even have adequate materials to manage it. Fatimah highlighted the challenges that she faces when she is on her period. This is one, and associated with her diagnosis, which is muscular dystrophy. Like I always say, get information, because ignorance is not an excuse. So you haven't read a book, please Google muscular dystrophy and read about it, okay? And then, of course, there are also the access to this material. So the solutions, I think we need to focus. Can you please move on so that we can wrap up? Yes, the challenges, of course, we've talked about stigma, sanitation, how do people dispose it? Menstruation keeps girls out of school, okay? Fatima says she doesn't go out. We're talking about girls with disabilities here. We're talking about inclusive menstrual health. And like so many other girls living with disabilities, they might not be able to, depending on the diagnosis and the prognosis of the diagnosis. I like to emphasize that. What is this condition this person has been diagnosed with? And what is the prognosis of this condition? Can we move to the next slide, please? So we're going to be talking about the solutions. First things first, give it up for this initiative, collaboration. That's why I put it there. There is no first and there is no last. We've gotten to a point where we shouldn't be competing for humanity. We should come together. There's this popular saying, teamwork makes the dream work. And then, of course, this African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, we need to go together. Teamwork. So we need to collaborate with organizations, collaborate with persons who are either empowered or persons who have the knowledge. Teams work together to ensure that this stigmatization and all of it is ended. We need to educate the masses. Geez, I always talk about awareness, acceptance, and assistance. Be aware that girls, females living with disabilities must menstruate, will menstruate, except, like I highlighted earlier, there are certain conditions that might hamper or deter or stop or interrupt that cycle. Also, we need to also understand that it is every girl's right. It is not a taboo for girls to menstruate, let alone girls living with disability. So I always say, when I'm raising awareness, see the person before you see the disability. So if you see me and know that I am a human being like you, that invariably means that I am not excluded to menstruate, okay, as a female, before any other thing is associated with. Before you say, oh, okay, she's a female diagnosed with XYZ condition. This invariably means that after raising awareness, you must accept the condition. And then after acceptance, accept without prejudice, accept without sentiment, accept without judgment. And then you assist. Assistance, again, ensures that you are doing everything possible equitably to ensure that this person, this female, thrives irrespective of her condition. We must also begin to ensure that we advocate for policy change, such as establishing formal menstrual health policies. There's so much force, but for Fatimah and the founder, so much force about inclusion, force about menstrual health, force about female. I'm sure a lot of people like to jump on what is trending without implementing. So there's a margin, a very wide hiatus between theory and practice. So this is where we come in as stakeholders to ensure that we continue to advocate for the establishment of these policies, formal menstrual health policies. We must also ensure that in our spaces, we implement educational campaigns like what is going on here. Please engage the boys and men in conversations. I always ask people, even if you decide not to marry, even if you decide you're not going to have, or you don't have a girl child, you were born by a woman, right? I don't know who wasn't born by a woman. I don't care the pattern of conception. The most important thing is that a woman brought you to this world. And so it should not be out of place to talk about female issues or female business or female concern. And when a woman is going through this period, it is important that men, boys empathize. If a girl is stained around you, why laugh? Why run away? We didn't say touch it. We say help, support her, or join in these conversations to create inclusive worlds and settings. Lastly, provide suitable facilities and affordable menstrual management materials. Now, when most people want to have interventions to support females living with disabilities, it's a one-size-fits-all. So Fatimah talked about, her thought about using a tampon. If the intervention doesn't meet the need, that intervention is useless. So when people go to give support to persons living with disabilities, in this regard, menstrual health, and you want to donate a tampon, to somebody who is literally confined to the bed, maybe suffering a spinal cord injury or maybe muscular dystrophy, like Fatima, scared of how the tampon will move in. You need to ensure that your intervention meets the need. Take into cognizance the culture, the diagnosis, the prognosis of the people you want to donate it to. Yes, there are girls living with disabilities. It's not okay to want to trend. When you take a picture with a girl on a wheelchair and say you have given her sanitary pad, are you sure that you have met her need? Or you want to thrive, you want to be acknowledged, you want to be commended for giving a person on a wheelchair, right, a sanitary pad, as opposed to the effectiveness of that sanitary pad to the person you have donated. Ensure that your intervention meets the needs of the person you are giving it to. In this regard, the female living with a disability. Next slide. I think we should be wrapping up now. So in conclusion, an inclusive approach to menstrual health is essential for ensuring the needs and rights of all women and girls are met, addressing dignity, equality, and human rights. I missed out equity, ensuring you do to each of them living with that disability what they deserve, right? That shows effectiveness of your intervention. Thank you so much. This is thank you in sign language. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much, Akhere. Please, can we give her an applause, please? Just use the icon, the clap icon, to give Akhere an applause. When I told you that she is the powerful Akhere, it would seem like I was exaggerating. Please, can I see the applause, please? Let it keep coming. Please use the emoji to send in. There's a reaction button underneath. Please send in your clap, please. Please send in your clap. Let's give yes, thank you. You can use the chat box. Thank you. I have personally learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Akhere. I told you at the beginning that it is Akhere, and well, I really wish I could begin to call her Dr. Akhere, but I know they would come for me. So I will still call Akhere, but this is Dr. Akhere in the making. And trust me, there is someone who has committed years of both hands-on experience and scholarship to inclusion and diversity. This is somebody who has committed years to learn. And I mean, Pad Queen Initiative is hosting a pad drive at the end of the month at the Kwara State School of the Needs. And one of the things we emphasized on was what she said last. We need to be sure that we are going to meet the needs of the girls we are going to serve. That is a question that should always come first. Media publicity is good. It is good for awareness and advocacy. But what should always top, what should always be the priority for any community we are serving, any demographic, is that, are we serving them? Are we meeting their needs? When Fatima mentioned, because we are using Fatima's voice now as a representation of the tens and hundreds and thousands of women and girls outside who would benefit from conversations like this. She mentioned why it won't serve her and how it doesn't serve her. We had to go down to the Kwara State School of the Needy to ask them because like Fatima said, disabilities is not unilateral. We have people who have learning disabilities, some have physical disabilities, and even within the physical, we have those who have it in different places. Some it is the hand, some it is the leg, and we had to ask them to go study the demography of people we'll be serving and to know what precise number can we serve, who are the people who can serve, because we give reusable pads because we believe, and it has been proven to be more sustainable. You don't have to think of, if we give them disposable single-use pads, they use it this month, what happens the next month? They are back to square one. So we give them a more sustainable product that will serve them for 2 years. So all the girls we have given, over 3,000 in number, it will serve them for 2 years. But it is not enough. We are serving a unique community now that we are not familiar, which is what inspired this conversation we are having, to have a specialist, a scholar who is who has worked for years in this field, and Fatimah, who is a woman experiencing it, for us all to learn as organizations, talking about health, talking about children, working with women, working on health in whatever spaces. Are we serving this demographic of people we are talking about today? Are we being inclusive in our actions? If as an organization serving school children, for instance, working on learning poverty, we need to be sure that when we go to the school of the needs, for instance, with this exercise book, will it serve them? Will it serve them? Is that something we might need to provide? I'm not sure I've seen any organization provide Braille. Is it Braille that people with, Fatimah, is it Braille they use? People with visual disabilities. I've not seen any organization donate or maybe typewriter to them, because these are other demographics that we can serve in other ways too. They are humans like us, and we should begin to think of more inclusive approaches to serving them. And what Fatimah said, as organization, as NGOs, we should begin to think of more inclusive way. We should not compete for humanity. It's not a competition. The Nigerian NGO space needs to be more inclusive, more collaborative. If there's anything the media, the Nollywood has done so much in recent times, is that they've collaborated more. The filmmakers are beginning to collaborate, they're beginning to support one another, they're beginning to see the nexus between their actions, that in isolation we will do so less, but together we can do much more. Together we can do much more than we think we can do. We begin to think of inclusive ways to include women and girls living with disabilities, and of course, men living with disabilities, men and boys living with disabilities. But in this context of menstruation, women and girls living with disabilities, and of course, and also inclusive approaches, collaborative approaches as NGOs to foster and better humanity. To foster and better humanity. So on this note, I don't know if anybody has any question for Akhere or Fatimah, or any clarifications to make, or any interjections or any interventions, anything. Would anybody like to say one or two things? Please, you have the floor. But before that, I want to recognize the presence of Peaceway Youth Initiative. I'm Salam Mubarak from Peaceway Youth Initiative, and Mustafa Najmuddin from Teenage Triangle. Thank you very much for coming. Please, if you are here representing any organization, please introduce yourself in the chat box so that we can give you a due recognition. We also have here our collaborating partner, Aminat Ajibola Defila from Women's Health Triangle, who will be speaking with us shortly to share insight or brief insight on why we are doing this and why it is important. But before then, anyone who has any questions for Akhere, please signify. Any question for Akhere, or any observation or any insight you would like to share, or perhaps something you learned that resonates with you in the course of Fatimah's speech or Akhere's speech that you would like to air your thoughts, or your personal experience that you think, I mean, this conversation reminds you of. Anyone, please?
Okay.
All right, Ramata
Okay.
Usoya, please. Okay, can we have Rashida Okwebe, and then we have Ramata Usoya right after that, please? Thank you. All right, Rashida.
All right, thank you very much. That was a very insightful conversation, and I'm beginning to look at things a lot in another perspective. So a lot of times, sometimes last year or thereabouts, we also had a conversation about inclusive, how we can make sure that our education system is inclusive with our Education Summit event. But I would say that the part that especially resonates with me with Akhere's presentation is when she said that we needed to make sure that our interventions are indeed the right intervention for the people we are, working with. And it reminds me that, I once read about the fact that the people we are catering to these people who are giving books, who are giving all of these things, they're supposed to be a stakeholder. So there's a need for us to, in our intervention. So you're planning now, your board of directors, your management team, volunteers, the people in the community, they're all stakeholders. And it further strengthens the fact that the people we are even giving these things, they're also people we must make sure that we include. They're not just end users, they're also people that should be a voice in, you know, our intervention. And that's really reminded me about all of the things, you know, I have been planning to do before. So I must say that it's a very powerful one. And I'm beginning to also look at how we can get more inclusive in our actions, because we're doing more of advocacy, you know, talking about it, educating people about, okay, so this is how to relate, this is what to do. And now I am looking at more interventions we can embark on, and also to make sure that it is the right intervention for the people we are taking it to. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rashida, for sharing your insights with us. Thank you very much. I mean, I am personally fascinated with that final note you wrapped it up. We need to think more as NGOs, we need to think more of intervention. You know, it is a good thing to create awareness and advocate, but more importantly is we should begin to look for ways to solve the problem. So actually create intervention projects that would solve that problem in our own little corner. Like my professor would tell me, he's here and he's listening to me, would tell me you cannot change the world, you cannot solve all the problems in the world, but in your own little corner, in the space where you're operating, you can begin to think of intervention projects. You can begin to think of actual ways of creating solutions to the problems that you have identified, that you are advocating for. Thank you very much, Rashida Akhere, for sharing your insights with us. We would have Ramat Awosonya quickly before having Grace. Grace says she also has something to share with us. Ramat, please, you have the floor. You can unmute yourself. Ramat, are you there? Or would you rather use the chat box? Okay, she's
Yes,
muted.
I
All right,
am
please.
there.
All right, please go
All
ahead.
right. Mrs. Akere, thank you so much. And Fatima, though I was late, and but the little I made, it's so impactful. Also, I can say that even after Mrs. Akere and Fatima have have already told us about their challenges, or maybe how this part of it can also the those that have the disabilities can also so that it can also be useful to them. So it is now that I started realizing, or maybe I started realizing that okay, it seems this reusable part would not even go well with those that have a disability also. So then we will also like the part of initiative to look for maybe another way so that they can also be inclusive with this part of initiative. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Rahmat. In fact, we have noted that already. And I think one of the things we are well aware of is that we have not created an omniscient solution, okay? There's no omniscient solution that will solve all the problems in the world. Reusable pads is a very good intervention. Like, it's been approved by the UNICEF, it's been approved by the UNHCR. However, we are definitely aware that it cannot serve all the millions of women in the world, okay? There is no single intervention that can serve everybody. And that is the reason we need to all educate ourselves. That is the reason we are having this conversation. We want to learn from people who have the experience, who have the expertise. Yes, no one size fits all. Thank you very much, Akhere. So we have learned now from Fatima, and we'll go back to the drawing board. And we will, of course, continue to work hand in hand with people who are leaders in this particular space, the inclusive space, and look for how we can begin to serve that community better. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And like Fatima also said, disabilities is not one, okay? Reusable pads will definitely serve some women who are living with disabilities, but it definitely cannot serve all. We, for one, have recognized that it might not serve girls with learning disabilities, even before learning from Fatima now that, I mean, there are needs for people with learning disabilities not to menstruate because they might not be able to manage it on their own. So we know already that, disabled parts come with a level of awareness that you must have to be able to manage it by yourself. And people with learning disabilities might not be able to. However, we are going back to the drawing board to create a solution that will serve that community. You can take my word for that. So Grace, can we have you, please?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, the host and the facilitators. It has been an insightful session so far. I just want to add or probably ask from Mrs. Akhere. So one of the things I've observed working in our space in the development sector is that sometimes some of these values are deeply entrenched in culture and religion. So you get to places, you talk about certain issues, but then deep down you are getting responses from people, and you know that this thing is deep in their cultural values and their religion. So talking about menstruation now, how can we ensure that even in our religious spaces and in the cultural space, people are free to talk about menstruation, and then girls and women are not stigmatized? So I remember that there was a time we had a project working with secondary school boys, because he also mentioned including boys in educating boys about menstrual health. So one of the teachers approached us and told us, we're talking about female genital mutilation, and then the person asked us, why are you talking to boys? This is a female issue. Why don't make our boys promiscuous? You can like see that kind of response. So how can we ensure that we address menstruation, the stigma around menstruation, from the religious perspective and from cultural perspective? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I like that question. It's something that we hear and have to deal with all the time. Our moderator here, our host, said her prof would always tell her, you can't change the world. Some of these cultures have literally existed even before we were born. So thinking that we can change it in one day or in 1 year or 2 years whilst advocating it's a pipe dream. However, like I say, if we know better, we will do better. That we have somebody working in a school as a teacher, right? Because I'm also an educator. I'm a teacher. I'm a lecturer as well in university. I'm an educator. I'm an academic. I have a school with a PhD. So I cannot say that I know it all. The most important thing is my extent or my level of receptivity to information and change, right? If I hear something and I think that it could be done in a better way than I thought, my level of receptivity is what can make it work. Quite a number of people think, I've been to a school where I was talking about drug abuse, and when we started talking, people were like, no, don't go there. Why are you living in denial? Why do you think that it is what you tell them that is changing their mind? Why do you think they don't know more than you? It's not even in this age where we have gadgets and information. These kids have it at their fingertips. So in conditions or situations like this, the best thing is to, before you start the speech, right, before you go to the environment, what is the culture like? Acknowledge. So this is diversity. You're going to a school to talk to students. What is the norm in that school? Right? They have a school policy. What do they like to talk about? What do they do? Is it a boys only school? Is it a girls only school? Is it a religious setting? Do they have policies, protocols that they must adhere to? It's important that you acknowledge how their modus operandi, how they run. You bounce it by them, what you want to talk about, because if you're submitting a proposal, of course, you would tell, who we are, what we do, why we do it, and our mission, right? What we're coming to do in your school. Let them know what you want to talk about. And if they do not want it from the beginning, and if they do not want it from the beginning and they give you a tangible reason, okay, it's fine. But if it's something that, why do you want to spoil our boys? Madam, these boys, except you want them, they don't have phones in their houses. But it'll be better for them. The more you continue to sort of hide information from kids, They want to explore themselves and they learn the hard way, the only way. Oftentimes, more than not, the mistakes they make are irreversible. So why not just talk about it in a decent manner? When it comes to culture or religion, like I said, I work in the destitute home here in Ibutimeta, and when we're going to talk about menstruation and all of it, you acknowledge your culture. It's not something that they want to talk about in the open. So we had the guys leave, and the young girls were not ready to, sit, except the guys left. We had a few guys which they agreed to be there with us because those guys were the interpreters, okay? So acknowledge their culture. You don't go there and want to force in what you think you know on them. They would not be receptive. You're forcing it down their throats. There's this popular saying, you take a horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink water. So it's important. This is where diversity comes in. If we must foster inclusion, we must acknowledge diversity always. And acknowledging diversity includes knowing the background. What is the background of this person? What is the background of this home? What is the background of these people from this tribe in this state? Acknowledge their background. Acknowledge their social cultural norms. And if you're going to introduce a change, which they say change is constant, you have strategies in which you introduce it. If you introduce it to one person, it has worked. That person is going to be your advocate in that environment. And that's what happened to us at the destitute home. Eventually, everybody's talking, Auntie, me too, I want pad. Auntie, me too, I want pad. They never used to use pad. They used to use, cloth, which was excused. So when you're introducing them to pads, another thing, like I said in my speech, is considering what is the environmental health like, their attitude to public health. It's a mess. So will they want to dispose their pads there? You are causing problem again because they might want to flush and it's blocking the toilet. So in this regard, look for something else that works. That's why I said one size can never fit all. The most important thing is to acknowledge diversity. Do a background check. Ensure that before you go there, do they allow trousers in their setting? Must you cover your hair? Must you wear earrings there? Is it a free environment? What is the school like? There are some secondary schools you go, they don't want you to wear jeans there. Okay, so it's important that you acknowledge when we talk about diversity, is to note that, look, different people with different perspectives. Okay, so that's where I come in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akira. Thank you very much. I'm sure we almost have hit one or two things. Like Fatima summarized it in the chat. When it's always good to read the room when it comes to advocacy. You need to respect the culture of the people you are serving. You need to respect them. You need to understand them and respect them. So we'll have Ibukunlua, okay, quickly. And after which you have Mustafa Najimuddin. Please, can you make it in a minute? I think Abdusalam Abubakar also wants to say something. Please, can we make it in a minute? Please, Ibukun, please, can we have you?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
So I work directly with children with developmental disabilities. So I kind of have an idea of how their menstrual cycle goes. Some really do not experience menstrual issues because depending on their level of disability is how well they can handle themselves, how not. But so in the regards to the people that can't take care of themselves, they even have an understanding of what is going on around them. I think people that do need the enlightenment, this education, this advocacy that we're trying to reach out to them are then their parents. Because I noticed that in some cases, parents just leave them to bleed out. When they are done, since no one is actually seeing them or being around them, they just feel like, when we drop them down, when they are done, we'll clean up and we'll rinse again next month, the same thing. So the advocacy then should go towards their parents and their caregivers, especially in those schools or organizations or settings that they take care of children with developmental disabilities, because given that their parents are not there, they tend to want to abandon the children, especially the females, when it comes to their menstrual hygiene or during the menstrual period. I've had a child complain every time that she has menstrual cramps and everything, and I've seen that the the person in charge of her can just say, oh, she's just exaggerating, don't pay her any attention, knowing fully well that even we as normal people like us, when we are going through menstrual problems, the cramps are usually a lot for even us to handle. Now, talk less of someone that can't really express herself, and you're just saying, oh, stay there. When you are ready, you'll be fine. That kind of thing. So I feel like the advocacy should go towards those people so that they can do better in regards to their to menstrual education, so they can segregate all the people that can handle themselves, the people that cannot. So the teaching is different for everybody. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Mustafa Najmuddin, please, can we have in a minute, please? Thank you.
Okay, afternoon, everyone. It's a really a great session with the guest speakers, and I really appreciate this program. So my talk will be short because it actually goes in line with the first speaker. So I think generally regarding, there's a lot of things that actually affects young ones while growing up, and majorly these things are not actually given attention, and that's why a lot of things turn out wrongly in the community generally, and everyone kind of being shy away from discussing it, and that's one of the problems we are trying to solve. So as the first speaker that I said, I think the major call of concerns are the parents and the governments. Let me put it like this. So I want to push it to the Padikun initiative to also work on having this kind of stakeholders seminar or something like that, in having discussion with parents, stakeholders in this community and something like that, in order to ensure that these things are being given attention to, because they actually pave way to other success that they focus on at a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the very succinct suggestion. Yes, I mean, thank you for re-emphasizing that, because Rashida mentioned the same thing, that we need to do more with working with other stakeholders. The girls we serve are also stakeholders, but we need to involve their guardians and parents as important part of this discussion, this conversation to implement effective change. So Absalam Mubarak, please, can we have you in a minute or two? Thank you.
Am I on now?
Hello, yeah, we can hear you now.
I give it to the both speakers. We appreciate them. Thanks so much, and for facilitating the program. It's really educating.
Please, can you speak a bit louder? It's low here. We can barely hear you, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Yeah. So my own concern is about from what I've done so far now with this conversation. So it's now clear to me that the major work here is on the men. So to say, is on the men. Yeah, because from what you said earlier now, you understand that the men are the real leaders. Let's face the reality. No, we have we might be maybe competing about inequalities or facing problems about inequality or something like that. But the reality is that we have the men ruling. We have the men ruling ruling the world, ruling the affairs of everything. For example, now you have, let's say, you want to take care of menstrual situation of a girl of, let's say, maybe 12, 13. So these people are under the custody of somebody. So they have their parents, and that parents we are talking about, the major actor in that regard is their father. You understand? So talking of the government, we have let's say 90% of the policymakers are men. Talking of anything, talk of anything. This thing, I just believe that the females taking charge of these initiatives of this advocacy is just a way of, let's say, the major thing you should be focusing on now is to like inform the men most, because this thing you are saying now, let me be sincere, you know, I've never seen it as a major problem, but the way everything is explained now, you know, I understand better that this thing, for example, now I have a mother, I have a sister, I'm married, I have a wife, I will have my own, maybe I don't know, maybe I'll have my own children, you know, female children too. So, but telling me that, okay, do you know that even let's say for example now we give our men, let's say 500 naira for something, you know, okay, for example now let's talk about the matured females on campus. When we give them pocket money, do we even care? Like the men, do you think the men care of thinking that, okay, the 10,000 naira I'm giving you for pocket money, there is a particular portion from it for your menstrual, let's say, is it pad or everything, like, you understand now? So, particularly, I might be giving my wife money, you know, but I don't think there is maybe a serious conversation thinking that, okay, this is how I'm going to be taking care of your menstrual, you understand? So I believe that you really need to like focus on the men too. So talking about the secondary, like say the secondary school students, maybe educating them or something like that. I don't really know how that will influence anything, but I know the policymakers that we have over 90% of the policymakers that we have in this country are men. You understand? Even the females that we have among them, none of them is even talking about this thing. None of them is even talking about this thing. We have them as friends. Let's say I'm from Oyo State. We have policymakers from Oyo State. You can actually tell them this is what we want. This is what we are doing. So when you host a program, you invite them. For this, I will be sincere. This is just the first time I will be seeing a big deal in this thing. That's just the reality. So I really commend the organizers' effort, and I believe that if we channel our efforts more, I think you should get more, the females. Let me say you. The females should get, because my mother is also part, my wife is also among. So you should get more of what you deserve in the society. You understand? So
thank you very much, Absalam Mubarak. Thank you very much for calling our attention to a very vital part of it. Getting the men and boys involved, because they happen to have the larger percentage in the policy making space. Yes, like I said, this conversation is the beginning of several, is the first of several. We do more of this to call attention to more stakeholders, to address more perspectives, more issues revolving around menstrual health for women and girls in Nigeria. We will talk about workplace policies. We will talk about introducing menstrual health education to schools. We will talk about so many other things, getting parents educated, getting men and boys to learn how to empathize and help and support menstruating women and girls. It's an ongoing conversation. It's a conversation that we continue to go on and build towards the goal of impacting a transformative change in our world. Ibukunluwa says that I think we should also start educating children, teenagers, and parents on different menstrual health issues so that there is early intervention. For instance, when girls don't see their period, they should speak up on time, and parents should look into it fast and not just brush it away as just a missed period. I know a lot of people that suffer from PCOS and started showing signs at a young age. They were just happy that they were missing their period, they were missing their period and happy, not knowing a problem was breathing. Yeah, thank you very much for that. That's a very unique perspective. And speaking of which, the next episode of the Period Conversations will be holding in April, and we'll be discussing a menstrual health challenge, a menstrual health issue. We'll be discussing hormonal imbalance and how it affects our menstruation. So if you'd like to get more updates on our events, you can fill the Google form in the chat box. There's a Google form shared by Olateju with one. Please fill it in so that more conversations about how to make menstrual health more accessible to women and girls, you won't miss out on it. You will miss out on it. Please click on the Google form and fill it. On this note, I think we'll be wrapping up, but one of our collaborating partners will share a goodwill message with every one of us. Thank you all for staying tuned, but please let's have Aminat, Dr. Aminat Ajibola Defila from Women's Health Triangle Initiative. Please, can we have you just a minute or two for a good message? While Aminat is saying a good messages, please let's check the chat box for the link, for the Google link to register our interest in further discussions about menstrual health. Please, Aminat, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Firstly, I'm not a doctor.
I keep mixing it up.
Yeah, I am a nurse.
Nurse,
Thank you.
yeah. I was trying to remember, I was a doctor or nurse. Yeah.
I am so sorry for coming late. I'm very sorry about that. It was actually time difference issue. So I am here, like she said, on behalf of the WHTI, the Women's Health Triangle Initiative. And just like some of us might know, we actually about balancing the health of women, talk about physical, social, and mental health. And I can say menstrual health is well part of the physical health. It could even span across the other domain. So, however, before now, menstruation advocacy is not a thing, but I am quite happy now that is now a key component of public health effort. And thank you, FAD, a Queen Initiative, for this wonderful work you are doing. So menstrual health, like everybody has said, requires access to accurate information, the means to care for their body and a stigma-free environment, especially for people with disability. So, and if we fail to address this need, it could negatively impact their life. So, once again, I would like to commend PAD Queen Initiative for this wonderful program on inclusion matters, and I would encourage them to do more of these. And as an initiative, we would love to collaborate more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nesamina. Sorry for the mistake. So this note will be wrapping up. Thank you very much for staying with us from the beginning to now. Thank you very much, Akhere, for the powerful and enlightening session. Thank you very much, Fatimah, for generously sharing your story, your journey with us. We really appreciate it. Thank you for opening our eyes and giving us insight into what we need to do better. Thank you, everyone, for attending. On a final note, please, we have just one request from you. If you've learned something today, if this is something you really enjoy, please, can you drop us a comment on our social media page, on our Instagram page specifically, the post where we share the flyer for today's event. Please, can you drop a comment in the comment section about what you've learned today, what you think about our event. We thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to have you some other time. Thank you very much. Once again, I'm Saheedat Adetayo, and I'm the founder of the Queen Initiative. Thank you very much for being with us all through. We hope to see you some other time. Bye-bye.
Wait.
Okay.
What about a shot with Mrs. Akhere?
A what?
A shot with her. You haven't taken a shot with Mrs. Akran.
Oh, I think she joined us when we took the shots. Did you? I think she did. She joined us with the shots.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. But maybe we should have one again. For those of us who are still here, can we just turn on our camera and let's take a quick shot before Zoom throws every one of us out? Can we just turn on our camera, please? Do we still have anyone here? We can turn on their camera. Thank you. All right. So, yeah. Thank you. Got that. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. And do have a lovely weekend. And then, okay, we have somebody else now. Yep. All right. And then the end. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. You're free to leave now. Sarama, thank you. Thank you for attending. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I have to take short Belen. Ibi ba ló máa wà níbẹ̀ kan bá ló máa wà.
Auntie Nurse. All right. Alhamdulillah, it went well. So see
Right,
ya
ma.
in the DM. Bye-bye.
Inshallah.